the KupunaWiki radio show. This month we'll be talking about estate planning, and in studio today we have Cheryl Takabayashi, attorney at law. KupunaWiki is Hawaii's senior resource. We talk to the best local professionals in the state regarding topics such as real estate, senior housing, estate planning, finance, and health, so our Kupunan families can find the best resources in the midst of a life transition. We strive to make sure our seniors are informed and supported every step of the way. Thanks again for joining us today. I'm Brandon Lau, your host for the KupunaWiki radio show. Our title sponsor for today is the Hawaii Kai Retirement Community, where they aim to provide a safe, nurturing, and caring environment to the residents in a community-style setting similar to the comforts of their own homes. To schedule a tour, contact 808-395-9599. And now we have our real estate tip of the week, brought to you by Cheney Brooks Choice Advisors. When purchasing a home with a photovoltaic system, always be sure to verify whether the system is leased or owned. Inquire with the seller regarding the system and its features, and always review the agreement between the owner and the PV company. If the system is leased, always make certain you understand the details of the lease and the terms of canceling the contract. Failing to do so may result in unforeseen consequences and significant cancellation fees. For more information on photovoltaic systems for your home, contact Cheney Brooks Choice Advisors at 753-9033. Well, again, today in studio we have Cheryl Takabayashi, attorney at law. Welcome, Cheryl.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Now, Cheryl, I know you've been in practice for a while, but maybe you can give our listeners a little background about yourself.
Yeah, I was born and raised here in Hawaii, and I've been licensed to practice for over 25 years and have had my own practice for over 10 years.
Okay.
And I have a family, and my practice is just me and my practice. And part of that is just to allow me to be able to balance life well and spend time with my clients, but also spend time with family and other commitments that I have in life.
So it gives you some flexibility.
Lots of flexibility, yes.
But your practice, in the same way, though, has become very personalized. I think because it's yourself, and you're not beholden to, staff meetings and all kind of company obligations. You can dedicate most of your time to your clients.
That's correct, and I can, one of the things I love about working by myself is that I can structure my time. I'm able to do house calls, to go out and meet with clients that can't come to me or maybe feel more comfortable in their homes. So those are important factors for me when I decided to go out on my own with my practice.
I've rarely heard of house calls for attorneys.
Oh.
I usually think of going to the attorney's office.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Not wanting to go to downtown.
Right. Yeah.
So did you study here locally, or did you study abroad?
I actually studied at Santa Clara University School of Law.
Okay.
And, so I spent some time in California, and then right after law school, some kind soul was kind enough to hire me, and so I came back home.
You're too modest.
Yeah, and I actually started in a completely different area. It was a real estate law firm.
Really?
And
interesting.
Was able to work with someone within that firm that does estate planning, and that's where I got my first taste of it. And then through the years, I've done a little bit of it, but I also moved in and out of different areas. I've worked for a union, a legal department, worked for the legislature, and then finally, in the last 10 years, was able to decide that this is where I want to be, this is the niche that I want. It allows me to work with all kinds of people, and I love being around people. I love hearing their stories. I love being able to help them, and so I help all ages, but my heart is really with the seniors. I really love to work with the Kupuna, yes.
Right. Now, when you made that transition, what was it initially that attracted you to work with estate planning?
I think it was just seeing that there's a need as people are aging, that there are so many people that didn't know what to do or how to do it well, and then so then you come against problems like probate because people didn't set things up well, or even who's going to care for a person as they age or take care of their finances. And I think as I began to sit and talk with different people, I enjoyed it. And that's I have to say, when I first started out law practice, I just thought years ago, 25 years ago, I don't know if I want to do this,
right.
because it's, but with estate planning, it's really different because you're doing so much more. You're counseling them, you're listening to them, you're sometimes trying to bring families together that have conflict, and yeah, just kind of help people through the process.
It's not like you're reading briefings all day and
Yeah.
diving into the paperwork.
Yeah. It's a different kind of tedious
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely the people aspect is what drew you to this area of law.
Definitely, yes. I don't think I could be a litigator. Yeah.
Well, I kind of get the feeling that you're a good teacher, so I think that goes hand in hand with this role.
Yeah, well, thank you. There's different aspects of my life, and in fact, a few years ago, I actually went back to school to get a master's in marriage and family therapy.
No kidding.
Just so that
Wow.
I think it was, I actually learned a lot about myself, but
Right.
yeah, just to be able to learn how to be with people and ask good questions, just to help draw them out more. And even to just be more comfortable in
Right.
settings that really we're talking about very personal matters. So some people come to me and they have a lot of conflict in their family or painful relationships, and so it's trying to navigate through them and get them to open up, and then we can at least address their concerns through their planning and their documents.
So you definitely have to have that people aspect in place before you can help them with their planning.
Yeah.
People then planning.
Yeah, and I think that's an important part of it, is that when you find an attorney, that you really need to find one that you can work well with, especially with estate planning. You're gonna hopefully see them throughout the years of your life,
Right.
and you'll have different things happen at different times, different life changes, and so you may start out young with a young child, and then years later they'll come back and see you because now their children are grown,
Right.
and then pretty soon they have grandkids, and so I find that it's really satisfying to have that relationship throughout the years. Yeah. And I also find that many of my clients will say sometimes they'll change midstream, and part of the frustration is I didn't feel like my attorney was listening to me, or I don't understand what I did years ago, and so it's trying to guide them and help them understand, like, this is what you paid for, this is the service you paid for, and then help them moving forward so they feel actually more informed and empowered. So.
Now, do you help people all over the island of Oahu, or is it a particular area?
I will go where I need to go.
Okay.
So, and a lot of times if it's a far drive, I will ask, what are the circumstances? But I've driven, to some of the west side.
Far-reaching parts of the island, yeah.
Yeah, and it really is about, what do you need and what can I help you with? So, yeah.
So for those people, and it's interesting you brought up the idea that there's some people who would switch to your services from another attorney. What are some of the common things that they're most concerned about that makes them want to make the switch?
Yeah, I think I've had circumstances where people have come, and the biggest one is sometimes feeling like they're not, maybe the attorneys are just really busy,
Right.
so they can't take their calls, or it could be that they just didn't understand what was set up for them. Sometimes it's just, I think people sometimes feel like when they go, they have to go with that attorney, and I think it's important, you're paying for an important service, so it's important that you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So if you have to, interview different attorneys, that's a good practice to do. And so oftentimes, like, I will meet with my clients, and I usually don't charge for that initial consultation because I feel like that's the getting to know each other time.
Right.
Finding out what their needs are, and cost, what that's going to be. And sometimes people, you'll ask them all the questions and they don't really know. I had a couple that came in and they couldn't agree on who would be the guardian of their children.
Right. Oh, that's important.
It is, but it's a stumbling block for some, and then I didn't see them again until their children were then 18, and then
No
it's
kidding.
Now we don't
That's
have
so
to
funny.
deal with that anymore. But so it's just different things. Sometimes people, you put the questions out there and you may not see them for a while, and they have to be ready because some people feel like, oh, it depresses them to set up an estate plan.
Right.
It makes them think about their own mortality.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be ready.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
Sometimes we'll meet once and then they'll wait a little while, and it's okay because they're big life decisions.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely want to talk more about the components of estate planning. Obviously, you're great at consulting, but what are the things that people can expect when they first start? So we'll talk more about that right after this commercial break. Good job. You want to put the head? I don't think she really cares, but she's heard me before. If you're just joining us in studio, we have Cheryl Takabayashi, attorney at law, and we're talking about estate planning. Now, Cheryl, we went over some of the basics of your practice and kind of how you set yourself up to service your clients. But tell us, what are some of the main components of estate planning that maybe a new person would want to know about?
Okay, so I think one of the things that people I think sometimes is that maybe they don't have enough assets to set up an estate plan.
Yes,
and so they think, oh, I don't have much. But even if you have a bank account, that's an estate right there.
Right.
You have something. And so when people come in to see me, they usually have a questionnaire that they filled out. But we talk about just what does their life look like, and we look at their assets and see how things are titled. And then we talk about, what do you want to happen if you were to pass away, if you were to become incapacitated, and then we go from there. And I can't say that everyone that comes in, everyone's different. Some people need a trust, some people don't.
Right.
I think that when people come in and we talk about their needs, sometimes it's as simple as maybe they just need a power of attorney and an advance healthcare directive because they've taken care of things or titled things a certain way. And so each client is really different. I think there's always a step one and step two when setting up an estate plan. There's the setting up of the documents and executing them with the client. But I think the step two is also making sure you kind of walk with the client to make sure that they understand, like, there's more that I have to do. So if I have a trust, I have to fund the trust. I actually have to get assets into it. Or if I have an account and I pass away and I don't want to put it in a trust, I should at least have a payable on death beneficiary. So what I try to do is take a look at all of their assets with them, and we decide this may go in the trust or it may not. Some people don't want the headache of going down to the bank and putting their account in right away. So another option might be, okay, do you want to designate your trust as the beneficiary? And then it will get in there and avoid probate, which is having to go to court after you pass. But it gives options. So there's no right or wrong. It just depends on what do you want to happen with this particular account or asset.
In what situation do you think it's maybe not necessary to have a trust? I think the commonplace language is, well, everybody should have a trust, but in what case would it not be as significant?
Okay, so I have had some circumstances where, and a lot of times it happens more when my clients are, like the Kupuna are a lot more elderly, and they have great relationships with, let's say, their children or someone that they trust and they've been taken care of, and perhaps with their home they've already gifted it, or they hold title where if they were to pass it would just automatically go to whoever is on title with them. And so we were looking at circumstances where maybe things are a lot more simplified. Maybe they only have a few accounts. They can put a payable on death beneficiary down, and so they don't need a trust then. And so those are sometimes where we really don't need it. Sometimes I'll say it's good to have a will just so you have a point person in there designated that you know that you chose to kind of wrap things up for you once someone has passed away. But yeah, not everybody needs a trust.
Would you still open yourself up to probate though, without a trust?
So without a trust, this is a statement that people think, oh, I have a will, so I'll avoid probate. But a will does not avoid probate. That's really important to know that. However, if you set up your assets well so that there's payable on death beneficiaries, or you title your assets where upon death it's automatically going to pass to the other person on the account with you.
Right.
Those are ways that you avoid probate, and you don't need a trust.
Okay. Okay.
And so, I don't know if hopefully that answers your
Yeah.
question.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I think using that idea of a payable on death designation,
Yes.
that sounds like it's pretty key.
Yeah, and I do want to add though,
Yeah.
it's really important that those payable on death beneficiaries are not children, because I've had circumstances where grandma left an insurance policy and put grandchildren because
they're
she wanted,
minors.
and they're minors, and so we ended up having to do a conservatorship, because even though parents can manage the money and are going to manage it
Right.
well, you still need the safeguard in there, so we had to go in and set up a conservatorship just for
Interesting.
the insurance money.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and
right,
it's frustrating because, for whatever braces or tuition, each time you have to go back to the court to ask, or it's okay to have a disbursement.
Right. Right. I think some of the major documents most people think of when estate planning comes into the conversation are your will, your trust, your advanced healthcare directive, durable power of attorney. Is there anything else I'm missing that somebody would want to know about?
Well, I think in those cases where you have a trust, and if you have real estate, you definitely have to make sure you transfer your property into the trust. So
Okay.
there's often a deed that's added on.
Okay.
And what I've been doing for some of my clients that are not married, maybe, that don't have children, is like a letter of last instruction now, so that when they pass away, oftentimes the mortuary doesn't know who they're supposed to deal with. And so if you don't have next of kin, but maybe you have a good friend or someone that you want to make decisions for you regarding cremation or funeral, it's a really simple piece of paper that you can say, I designate my good friend to make all these decisions for me, so
Right.
that just in case you don't want your family to do it, there's someone in
Somebody
place.
there.
Yeah, and it's something I've added on in the last few years, just because we've realized that the mortuary will always ask for next of kin.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't want somebody just randomly put into that role,
Right, right.
Who's not expecting it. So.
Yes, yeah.
Now, obviously, if you're a little later in life, estate planning becomes more relevant. But how early do you advise a couple to start planning?
So I think it's for a couple, even without, obviously when you have children it's important, because you want to make sure you have a guardian or a trustee in place in
Right.
case something happens to both of you. My son is a first-year college student. He just finished, and when he went away to college, I had him execute a durable general power of attorney and an advanced healthcare directive. I had to tell him what he was signing and why he was signing it, because young people don't think that they're going to need a document, but it's a just in case something happened, if he were far away and I needed to sign something because he was incapacitated. It definitely saves time and having to bypass all these other hoops that will come up. So there's that. There's the advanced healthcare directive that's really important in case he had any medical issues.
Right.
That it would designate myself or his dad as agent for him.
Right.
Yeah.
And so these documents, they continue on in perpetuity until they're changed, right?
So for the power of attorney and the advanced healthcare directive, they will continue on for the duration of your lifetime.
Right.
Some tips, especially for the durable general power of attorney, is that it's really good to update that every maybe 5 years or so. That if you can still pick the same person, but it's good to just update it, because financial institutions, if you come in with one that's really old, they don't know if you've done a new one or not, or they don't know if the same person is the person you picked 20 years ago. So it's helpful to update every so often. I have had clients talk to me, and over the years I'll tell them that when you do a power of attorney, the hope is that you're going to be able to designate someone to sign on your behalf, to take care of really your finances, sign important documents, file your taxes for you, transfer things into your trust if you're not able to do that. But I've also told them that you need to really check with your financial institutions. So some of the major banks, they have their own form and authorized signee that you can designate in case you're unable to write checks or pay bills. And so they won't necessarily accept the power of attorney, and so I tell them, if you bank at certain banks, you should just go in and tell them, you know, I have a power of attorney, but are you going to accept it if something happens to me? And oftentimes they have their own form.
Right.
And that saves a lot of time and trouble too if something were to happen to the person.
But you have to know to ask these questions, though.
Yeah.
Because if not, you never know.
Right, and so that's that part I'm talking about with the, you know, there's the step one and there's the step two of doing a little bit more and making sure you have an attorney that, you know, kind of walks you through so it's thorough and you take care of things that you wouldn't normally know.
Right. On that note, what are some of the nuances that you've come across with your clients that maybe we should know that are kind of overlooked? Because maybe it's not part of the obvious estate planning components.
Okay, well, so there's the one I just talked about, the authorized agent. That's really important. I think it's important for clients to know that if you have specific concerns and thoughts, raise them with your attorney. I've had clients come in and let's say they have several children, but you know, they have concerns about maybe one child having a place to live. And so, you know, there's things you can do. You can tailor your estate plan to allow for maybe an adult child to live there for a certain amount of time, and you can specify, you know, whether they pay the rent or the mortgage or whatnot. There's also, for some of my clients for advanced healthcare directives, it is a pretty standard form.
Right.
But I have had clients say that, well, what if I were to get Alzheimer's? I really want these specific things to happen. And so by talking to your attorney, you know, the hope is that they're going to listen and try to do their best to go a little bit further with putting down your wishes.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, just same with the advanced healthcare directive too. You know, I've had in caregiving for my aunt and uncle, you know, they're pretty independent people, I have to say, and so they're 96 and 97, and I've walked alongside them for many, many years, and being independent, they had the healthcare directive executed, and they had appointed me, and what I appreciated about that document is that you can step in when they need help, you can specify that when they need help, step in, but when I'm good, you step back, and then I get to make my decisions, and so there are all kinds of choices that you can make for your estate plan, and so really want to encourage Kupuna to know that, you know, ask questions. It's okay to take a little bit of time and find a good fit for, you know, someone that's going to be setting up your estate plan for you.
How often would you advise talking with your estate attorney?
So then,
yeah, that one who didn't talk with you until their kids grew up to their 18, you know?
Yeah. And so thankfully nothing happened, you know, but I'd say every 3 to 5 years, once you set up your estate plan, it's good to just do a review, maintenance check. You know, sometimes things change, and anytime you have a big life change, someone passes away, your spouse, one of your beneficiaries, just to check and make sure that you have someone else in place, an alternate designated. And it's always good to designate an alternate. And another thing people sometimes don't realize is if you have a trustee, you can have more than one as a successor. You don't need to just have one. And so these are all things that I like to talk to my clients about, just to give them choices.
You know, since you're very good at communicating with your clients and going through the details of their plan, what happens when you have a family member who becomes estranged and was maybe a trustee or, you know, an important person in their estate plan? Do you get involved to help them navigate that relationship itself, or you just listen to whatever the client says, then you just perform their request? And how do you help in that particular case?
Okay, so that's a tricky question,
Yeah.
but I have had situations, and sometimes it means you have to go to court because you can't find the trustee, or you try to reach out to them and they're just unresponsive. I can tell you right off the bat, I don't do trust litigation. If it gets to that point, I'll refer it out to other attorneys. But, you know, oftentimes if families do have situations, then I will try to talk with them and try to see if we can find a good peaceful solution to it. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. That's why you have sometimes conservatorships and guardianships that come up when different people think they can do a better job taking care of someone. The good thing about the trust is that anything in the trust is taken care of by the trustee.
Right.
As long as that trustee is trustworthy and responsible, that's okay. And so again, that's where it comes down to looking at all your assets and making sure, what do I want in my trust, and what's okay to stay out of my trust and maybe be just payable on death.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's pretty extensive,
Yeah.
subject. So that's why taking time, I think, is really important with the client.
Yeah, and really understanding their needs. And I can see that that's one of your strengths in your practices.
Yeah.
Personalizing your service to what their particular needs are.
Yeah, and telling them that once they leave my office with their documents, anytime they can call if they have a question. Sometimes they're selling property and, just want to let you know I'm doing that so that I can just kind of remind them, don't forget to check with your CPA about tax consequences
Right.
or, what you're going to do with the money after you sell or put your new property into trust. And so I do encourage them to call. I don't bill for those calls or anything. I always tell them after you leave my office, you can call and I'll tell you if it's going to be something I bill for. But otherwise, I think it's important to be available for them to help them walk through.
I agree. Well, Cheryl, I'd love to keep talking. Amazingly, our time is up. But if somebody wanted to reach out to you, how can they do that?
So definitely they can contact me by phone. Do I need to tell you the phone number?
Yes, please.
Okay, so it's 808-537-2027. And then I also have a website, www.cheryltakabayashi.com, and you can access me through that website, and then email me too, Cheryl@takabayashilaw.com, and it's Cheryl with a C.
Thank you so much. That's Cheryl Takabayashi, attorney at law. Thank you for everything you do for our Kupuna.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Well, coming up next, we have our KupunaWiki Classic Trivia.